Jersey now tracking 2 possible contacts as the death toll from the ship reaches 3.
Hantavirus outbreak, a deadly one at that. So earlier this week, 3 passengers confirmed dead. 3 others suspected of infection left the MV Hondius near Cape Verde. Nearly 30 passengers who left the ship during early port stops before leaders were able to confirm the outbreak.
We're not just headlines, we're people.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So it's early May 2026, and the world woke up to the news of a Hantavirus cluster on a luxury expedition cruise ship in the South Atlantic. 3 people are now dead, several more are sick, and it seems to be the Andes strain. Now, for people who don't know, it's the only strain of the Hantavirus known to spread between humans in rare cases. But the question we need to ask is this the start of something bigger, or is this a contained tragedy? Today we're diving deep into what the Andes Hantavirus is, how the outbreak started, and the science behind it. And most importantly, what is the realistic scenario for what could happen if it spreads? This is coming straight from the WHO, CDC, and health authorities. Although they do lack credibility due to a lot of conspiracies and things that happened during the COVID-19 epidemic, we still need to take this information seriously. But regardless, let's dive in. Okay, so let's start off with this. What is the Hantavirus and what is the Andes strain? Well, first and foremost, the Hantavirus is a family of viruses carried by rodents worldwide. Humans usually get infected by breathing in dust contaminated by rodent urine, droppings, or saliva, or contaminated surfaces, and then unfortunately touching your own face. Most strains cause their hantavirus polymerase syndrome, or HPS, basically severe lung issues, or hemorrhagic fever or renal syndrome, essentially kidney problems. The fatality rates vary, but can hit around 30 to 50% for severe cases without quick care. Okay, and the Andes virus, or the Andes ortho-hantavirus, is a specific virus in South America, especially Argentina and Chile. It's carried by a long-tailed pygmy rice rat. But what makes it unique is it's the only hantavirus documented to travel from person to person, though this is limited through close prolonged contact like family members, intimate partners, or sharing enclosed spaces. It doesn't spread easily through like casual contact or long distance airborne like the flu or COVID epidemic. If you're curious about the symptoms, they go as the following. Okay, so the first stages you'll be dealing with is the incubation period. This is usually 1 to 5 weeks long, but normally it's 2 to 3 weeks for most individuals. This is the most dangerous time though, because you'll end up infecting the people that you love the most because you wouldn't know you're infected since you're not dealing with any symptoms. But in the early stages, such as day 3 and 5, you'll develop the following symptoms. You'll have fevers, fatigue, muscle aches, especially in the large muscle areas such as your legs, your butt, your chest, and then you end up getting headaches, dizziness, and nausea. It's gonna feel like the flu. But then when you start getting into the late stages, you start developing more serious, dangerous complications such as cardiopulmonary issues. Basically shortness of breath, coughing, fluid in the lungs, low blood pressure, and even shock. This can progress very fast and usually only takes a few hours. Early hospital care with oxygen, fluid, and supportive treatment improves outcomes dramatically. But it's unfortunate we don't have any antiviral or vaccinations widely available yet. So you may be asking yourself, where did this happen to get so much attention? Well, it started on a ship named MV Hondius. It's a Dutch flag expedition vessel with 147 passengers and crew from many different countries. It left Ushuaia, Argentina on April 1st, 2026 for a South Atlantic trip. There was an elderly couple who both died and showed the first symptoms. They probably picked it up from rodent exposure during their pre-boarding bird-watching trip near the landfill in Ushuaia. They unfortunately boarded during the incubation period. By early May, severe respiratory illnesses appeared across the ship. There was a total of 8 cases. 5 to 6 were confirmed with the Andes virus. 2 to 3 were suspected. In total, there were 3 deaths, and others were hospitalized, one in the ICU in South Africa and the other one in Switzerland. but the remaining passengers and crew are mostly asymptomatic so far. The ship is now heading to Tenerife, Canary Islands, for evacuation and quarantine, and the passengers are now being flown home with monitoring. But the leading theory is that the spread on the ship was suspected due to close quarters, but the primary trigger was likely rodent exposure before boarding. To give you more context on how this spreads, I made a diagram and some tips to help you keep safe from being possibly infected. First is the primary spread, basically rodent to human. In general, you would want to avoid rodent-infested areas, and try to clean droppings extremely carefully. You have to wet the droppings, because if you don't, you may accidentally kick up fecal matter into the air and you may breathe it in, and that's definitely not something you would want. And it's best to wear a mask and use gloves in risky spots. The second is rare to human, essentially the Andy strain. This requires normally a prolonged contact with individuals who are infected. Basically, if you sleep in the same bed, you're caregiving, sharing foods, and other things, exposure to body fluids during early symptomatic phases could spread things even quicker. The best practice, honestly, is just to stay distant if you know somebody is sick and sanitize your living area. And if you're interested in historical data, historical outbreaks of this virus happened in 2018 to 2019 in Argentina. There were a total of 34 cases and 11 deaths from a superspreader event at a party. Now, this shows that clusters and families or close groups can spread this virus very easily. But once you add isolation to the mix, the virus tends to die off extremely quickly. Now, luckily, this virus is not highly contagious. There's no evidence of efficient airborne spreading over distances, and it's unlikely to spread to Europe and the United States. But we should be cautious, because viruses do have a bad tendency of mutating once we keep beating them down. But let's say we're being lied to, and things could get worse. Here are a few scenarios that could happen if the virus could spread. The best option, or the best case scenario, which is most likely to happen, is that it will be contained through quarantine and monitoring. And a few secondary cases may show up because the passengers probably had contact with other people during the boarding process. But with isolation, it will kill the chain. And the total cases may be around 20 to 50 infectees. The ship evacuation will succeed, and the public stays calm, none the wiser. Okay, let's talk about a moderate scenario. This is a scenario if the virus goes beyond the cruise ship, and it infects a couple of countries and infects a couple of households. Now, this contact will be through intimate contact or very close-knit families like we talked about before. So we'll see an increase in cases around the world with a death toll around 100 to 200 deaths, especially around the elderly. And the travel alerts will increase for South America because to stay away. And the research will accelerate for treatments due to the increasing aggression of the virus. But there'll probably be a small hit to the cruise industry, especially if the virus continues to go around South Africa. Okay, worst case scenario. Multiple super spreader events are happening across households and care centers in many countries that weren't able to detect the virus due to its long incubation period. There are hundreds of cases in South America, Europe, and the US. The virus strain somehow mutates for easier spread to airborne and overwhelms local hospitals in affected areas, leading the death toll to thousands dying weekly, leaving the world to wonder how to stop it before it gets worse. But this is just a low probability scenario. You may be asking yourself, how can I prevent this from spreading, or how can I help myself from not getting infected? Well, first you need to wash your dang hands. And also you need to wet fecal matter if you believe it belongs to a rodent. And just so you know, we now live in a volatile age. Viruses and diseases are becoming more aggressive, and nature doesn't hold punches. But to sum it up, this is a serious situation, and the outbreak is a dangerous virus, but it's limited because of the spread potential. So what do you think? Should cruise lines have a stricter pre-boarding health check? Is this a possible pandemic? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. My name's Detective Raincoat, and I'll see you in the next one.